Well, this one came out of nowhere today thanks to Don Van Natta of ESPN. And the Dallas Cowboys paid, according to ESPN.com, and they've seen the documents, and this isn't just whispers and anonymity. They've confirmed all of this. $2.4 million was handed over to settle allegations of locker room voyeurism allegedly conducted by former PR executive Rich Dalrymple, who retired a few weeks ago. He allegedly recorded cheerleaders while they were changing for an event at AT&T Stadium in 2015. There's also an allegation in the report that Rich Dalrymple, and this is it's just bizarre. A fan was watching a live stream of the draft in 2015 and executed an affidavit that he saw Dalrymple using his phone under the table to take upskirt photos of Charlotte Jones-Anderson, who is the daughter of Jerry Jones and a Cowboys executive. It is just weird. And one of the issues in all of this is timing. There's a suggestion that Dalrymple didn't retire until after the Cowboys were aware that ESPN was working on this report, even though this happened in 2015, and it was settled in 2015. And the Cowboys say in a statement that they found no wrongdoing. Well, $2.4 million is a lot of pay. It's a lot to pay if you found no wrongdoing. That's a lot. That's a lot to settle when you have come to the conclusion after doing an exhaustive investigation that there was no wrongdoing. So something about this, Myles, doesn't sit right. And the other thing that bothers me, I'm going to go back to 2017 when Jerry Richardson ultimately gave up the control of the Carolina Panthers and sold the team. These non-disclosure agreements, and I know that they can be problematic, but when you retain a lawyer to represent you in negotiations with someone who has wronged you, and the end result is going to be the payment of money, part of what the company is paying for is your silence. When you choose to accept that, you have an obligation to honor it. There's a difference between a heavy-handed contract of adhesion, take it or leave it. If you want your $5,000 severance, you got to send the NDA, and you can't talk to anybody, can't call a lawyer, can't do anything. That's different. That's wrong. But when somebody's represented by counsel, and it's a major settlement, 4 different cheerleaders got $400,000 each as a result of this, and they were represented by lawyers. When you give your word as part of that settlement that you're not going to talk about it, it bothers me when people talk about it. Just the passage of time does not make it okay to talk about it. And one of the things that used to give me nightmares with the people I represented when I was practicing law, because it's a very common term. You don't want people to know, if you're the one who's paying the settlement, that there's easy money potentially to be gotten if we make some allegations. So they always want confidentiality, Myles. And I always worried that one of my clients was going to run their mouth, and then they were going to have to pay all the money back, because that's typically the punishment if you run your mouth. So I don't like NDAs when they are forced upon an employee who doesn't have the benefit of the advice of legal counsel. When you have somebody who is represented by counsel and it's gone through a process and it's been resolved that way, you have an obligation to honor it. If you wanted to tell your story, don't take the money. Once you take the money, you acquire an obligation to not talk about it. And that's what bothers me about situations like this, because we shouldn't have known about this, because these folks were represented by counsel who negotiated the deal.
Right. And I think that makes sense. And I think that you are pointing out a pretty stark difference there when you're talking about being represented by counsel in something that is negotiated versus something that isn't. But now that we do know about this, I mean, Mike, what do you think is the next step in terms of what the NFL may or may not do for something like this?
Well, I'm checking my email here again. I sent Brian McCarthy, my usual contact, an email seeking if they have comment about the Cowboys situation, and he hasn't responded yet. Here's how the dance goes. I have to remember to send him a follow-up, and he probably won't respond to that one. And then if I remember to send the third follow-up, I'll get maybe a terse no comment or, something. But I usually have to remember to do it 3 times. And if it sounds ridiculous, it is. And I'm sorry to be blowing up the strategy for dealing with me, but it is asinine. And then they wonder why maybe sometimes I'm a little more aggressive in my opinions than I should be. They're making my job harder. Just tell me no comment right out of the gates. Why are we doing this? Why are we playing this game where I have to remember to ask you 2 or 3 times? And I know Brian McCarthy's busy, but he also knows that everybody in the league reads PFT. So when he gets a question from me, it'd be nice if he would answer it and not force me to remember to ask it 2 or 3 times. It's kind of childish, isn't it? Am I wrong to say that?
No comment.
Okay, that's good. At least I didn't have to ask you again tomorrow. Thank you for responding to my question. Very well done. And I don't want to make light of any of this. It's a serious issue.
Right.
You would think that the league would have a comment about this, and they wouldn't be playing a shell game with me because they know I'm busy, forcing me to remember to ask again, hoping they can hide their head in the sand on this one. This is a serious issue, and this is exactly why. And I know this for a fact because I've been very curious. Why are they protecting Daniel Snyder? Why are they going along with hiding the information about the investigation that was conducted into workplace misconduct and sexual harassment over a period of 10 years or more? Why? They don't like Daniel Snyder. They don't respect Daniel Snyder. They don't. Generally, they don't. That's the sense I've gotten over the years. He's not a popular person among his fan base. He's not a popular person among his business partners. I don't know where he's a popular person anywhere. So they're protecting themselves, because they don't want to be in a situation where a disgruntled employee decides to start making accusations, and all a little bit of one of them has to do is stick, and then the next thing you know, you got an outside lawyer who shows up talking to a bunch of people, asking about a bunch of questions, like getting audited by the IRS. Nobody wants that. Even if you got nothing to hide, even if you're clean, even if you've done everything right, you don't want somebody looking for something, because there's a sense that even if there's nothing there, they don't justify their existence without looking for something. And maybe they'll find something that isn't there. And then I got to worry about having to sell my team if it all goes sideways on me. Nobody wants that. And here's an example of what they don't want. They don't want this kind of scrutiny. They don't want this talk about NDAs. This is exactly the thing. When the Jerry Richardson situation happened in 2017, I said, holy crap, they're going to start blowing up these NDAs, and others are going to have to worry. How about Jerry Jones? And that was the first name. I don't want to defame him here, but the first name that came up with the issue of people who may have things to worry about, and we've seen the photos published before, right? The first guy that may have to worry about anything is Jerry Jones. Now, the irony, if that's the right word to use here, and I never know whether it is that it wasn't anything he did, but he had some NDAs out there. They paid $2.4 million. $2.4 million, 1.21 gigawatts. I mean, that's a lot of money to pay for something that they contend resulted in the finding of no wrongdoing. So that's why they are protecting Daniel Snyder, Miles, because they know that they could end up in a similar problem. And I don't know where this goes from here. I don't know what else is out there. Are there other NDAs we don't know about? Does this embolden other people to breach their agreements? Again, I'm really torn here, because I think people need to honor their lawyer-negotiated agreements. But I'm very curious now what else is out there.
Well, right. I don't think that saying that, you want people to honor lawyer agreements, negotiated agreements, rather, is something that makes it okay for people to do heinous stuff, right? You're being accused of going into the cheerleaders' dressing room and filming them. That's some heinous stuff that is in that accusation there, and that may or may not have happened. And according to the Cowboys investigation, as you just said, Mike, they found no wrongdoing. But if there is no wrongdoing and you're still paying out that much money, it begs the question, well, like, what exactly are you paying for aside from their silence? So I feel like it's this principle of, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right? I mean, how many times have we heard that growing up, and people say it and all of those kinds of things? They mean it, I think, in this particular situation when it comes to NFL ownership, in Daniel Snyder in particular. There are probably other organizations out there who have had situations that they do not want to become public. And this qualifies with the Cowboys as one of those situations.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.